Hi, I'm Rory Wheatley, the Senator from Nebraska, and I'm going to explain to you why we should stop importing corn from foreign entities. First, let me begin with some statistics. This year, the United States produced 14.42 billion bushels of corn and exported 2.06 billion bushels of corn. We then imported 28 million bushels of corn. The corn we're importing is mostly non-GM because less than 10% of the corn we grow is non-GM. The other over 90% is GM, or genetically modified. This corn is mostly used for ethanol and animal feed, but it's also used in many other products like paper, plastic, textiles, batteries, adhesives, and different hygiene and cosmetic products, even like soap, hand sanitizer, diapers, and various types of makeup. Question: if corn is used more in things that I shouldn't eat than in things that I should eat, should I be eating it? The truth is, it all depends. The corn commonly used in these non-edible products is genetically modified, or GM. This means that it has had its DNA modified by something else's DNA to make it pest resistant, or simply immune to the pesticides used. This allows farmers to grow more of it for a smaller cost so that they can spend less, profit more, and also make sale prices lower for you and me, the consumers buying the corn. However, this does have its drawbacks. It can also make the corn dangerous to people if eaten or consumed. Here I have a passage from the book Modified by Caitlin Shetterly. In this passage, she describes her trip to Dr. Mansman to try and cure a strange and crippling disease that she had found herself victim to. She says, "He shook his head. He said he'd come to believe, in the years since GMOs were first introduced, that some people might be developing a kind of chronic allergic response that was caused not by the corn itself, but instead by the proteins created by the enterotoxins bred into the corn to make it pest resistant, and the proteins created from making it Roundup ready, or impervious to the herbicide glyphosate, marketed by Monsanto as Roundup. He said he thought these small genetic modifications that are made in the DNA of GMO corn can cause the immune system to overreact and a faucet gets turned on. This specific reaction, he believes, causes the body to release an avalanche of eosinophils, a kind of white blood cell, from the bloodstream into the mucous membranes, muscles, facial system, and bowels. As this reaction progresses, he said, it tends to look much more like an autoimmune disease, or something that used to be called chronic serum sickness. Chronic serum sickness is described as a kind of hypersensitivity, or the immune system on overdrive, often in reaction to medications or drugs, and includes the following symptoms in its diagnosis: rash, arthritis, arthralgia, and other symptomatic symptoms. Specifically, Mansman said he believes that the DNA changes bred into GMO corn could actually cause serum sickness, much like a drug or medication could. In his opinion, my body had become primed or in a state of constant reaction, and therefore it seemed to be allergic or sensitive to pretty much everything I ate or came into contact with. To test his theory, he took a swab of some mucus from inside my nose. If the eyes are the window to the soul for most of us, then the nose is the window to the immune system for Dr. Mansman. He smeared the mucus on a small glass slide, and then took it with him to his sink. There he doused it in Hansel stain, a blue medical dye used to identify eosinophils, then rinsed it off, leaving a pinkish smear on the slide. He placed the slide under the microscope, then stood back and said, "Take a look." On the slide were hundreds of pink circles, which he told me were eosinophils. My nose was chock full of them. When the immune system is working properly, he told me, eosinophils swarm certain invading substances, be they parasites or viruses, and work to eliminate them. Sometimes, however, an allergenic protein can prompt the immune system to release eosinophils. Then, if the allergen can't be detected and eliminated by the patient, the eosinophils just keep coming, creating a chronic condition. He felt if we could calm my body down with the elimination of corn, my whole being would come back into balance. So as you can see, corn can be very dangerous to our health if genetically modified. However, the corn itself isn't the only problem. Roundup, the pesticide commonly used, has also been proven to cause cancer. In fact, because of this, Monsanto, the producer of Roundup, has been fined over $2 billion in lawsuits. It's a lot of money. Let's do a little object lesson. Let's say that hypothetically, a global pandemic were to occur and we couldn't import anything because all the international transportation was shut down. Your average McDonald's meal would go from this to this. Perhaps you think that's unlikely. If so, consider how we ran out of face masks in the middle of a global pandemic virus because they came from China. Imagine if we couldn't import the one thing that we use in practically all our food, and we were stuck having to use the same stuff they put in gasoline, batteries, and glue. Those are things that were commonly encouraged not to eat, if I can remember right. But another problem with being reliant on foreign resources is that it creates a hole in our economy by removing business from our own country and giving it to others. This creates a loss of revenue, a shortage of jobs, and increases our risk of losing lots and lots of money in international investments. Buying corn from foreign entities is a detriment to our economy. By now, you might be wondering, if we're really growing all this corn, why can't some of it just be non-GM? Well, whereas we do certainly have the space, technology, resources, and incentive, there is one problem. Growing genetically modified corn is more expensive than genetically modified due to the increased costs of pest control and the greater risk of losing crops because they're not scientifically engineered to be indestructible. However, I have found ways to fix that. In my bill, I've covered the expenses and found ways to pay for them without raising the federal debt so that the people we represent won't have to pay for stuff that should already be theirs in the first place. By working together to implement the methods I described in my bill, we can preserve the health of our citizens and fill the hole in our economy. But we need to act now before our current negligence leads to future consequences. We need to do the job we are paid to do. Stop relying on unreliable foreign resources and represent our country. Because if we don't, no one else will. Pest resistant in and of itself, naturally. However, this makes it here I have